Module 3: Theft, Unchastity, and Possessions. Recap. Earlier we have seen what sins are, their types, the purpose of understanding them, and understood violence and falsehood with their subtypes, adverse effects, and efforts to avoid them. In this topic, we shall see theft, unchastity, and possessions. Number 3: Theft. Chori. In simple words, theft is stealing from others. It is common knowledge that taking things which do not belong to us is a crime. But do you know that taking undue credit is theft too? Copying in exams, evading tax, stealing freebies from hotels, stealing ideas, watching pirated movies, misusing money collected as donations, and many other such activities are all forms of theft. Let us understand more about theft so that it can be avoided. Definition: the act or sentiment of taking someone else's forgotten, kept, or fallen things without the knowledge or permission of the owner is known as theft. It is of two types: physical theft, dravya chori. It is the act of picking someone else's fallen, forgotten, or kept things without the owner's permission, telling someone else to do it, or picking and giving it to someone else. Psychic theft, bhav chori. The desire to acquire someone else's things is known as psychic theft or bhav chori. If such a feeling arises, karma is bound even if one does not steal. It is the main reason behind physical theft, so one must be content with whatever one has and avoid psychic theft. Some forms of theft have become very common and often applauded, like tax evasion, creating false companies, giving false receipts, finding loopholes in the system and misusing them. Also, there are several harmless forms of theft like ticketless travel, cheating in exams, stealing ideas, stealing copyrighted content, not giving credit where it's due, paying less to people when they deserve more, taking away someone's rights, and the list goes on. Some go unnoticed and unpunished by law, but as pursuers of the path of liberation, we must stay away from them. Honesty and morality build the character of a seeker on the path of liberation, not deceit and greed. Adverse effects of theft. The primary purpose of stealing is to get something or become more prosperous, but the opposite happens. It is said that the money acquired by stealing goes into the sewer. Money earned through the wrong means brings ill fate and misfortune. It attracts physical and mental illness, gets wasted in vices and bad habits, and causes disputes in the family. Look at the irony. One cannot enjoy the stolen possessions but bears the full brunt of such actions that cause misery and suffering in the future. Theft brings shame, a bad reputation, and punishment in this birth and rebirths in lower states of existence. Efforts to avoid theft and lead an ethical lifestyle. We must understand that we will get as per our destiny. Then what is the purpose of stealing that brings such misfortunes? We should lead an ethical lifestyle by doing these simple things. Never take away someone's rights or pass on our work to others. Never take credit for others' work and be honest in discharging our duties. We must not be tempted by others' possessions and be content with whatever we have. We should remember that happiness does not come from material things. It comes from within. We should have trust in our efforts and be patient. We should not wish for free stuff or buy things at an unusually low price. It might indicate foul play or unethical sourcing, and unknowingly, we become a part of such theft. If you find some lost or stolen item, do not take it in the first place or try to find its owner or hand it over to the appropriate authorities. Unchastity. Kushil. Definition. When the soul engages in lustful and immoral behavior, it is unchastity. It is of two types. Physical unchastity. Dravya Kushil. To have physical intimate relations with another person besides one's lawful spouse is physical unchastity. It also includes premarital relationships. For example, reading vulgar literature, watching porn movies, flirting with other men or women, dating, extramarital affairs, rape, wearing obscene clothes, posting indecent pictures online, etc., are all forms of physical unchastity. Psychic unchastity. Bhav Kushil. When the soul shows lustful feelings and inclinations and desires to gain pleasure through fulfilling them, it is known as psychic unchastity. For example, watching movies that aggravate one's lustful desires. This is psychic unchastity. Efforts to avoid unchastity. We must try to stay away from bad company and be in touch with people of good moral character. If a man wants to avoid this grave sin, he must avoid being alone with any other woman and vice versa. We should wear decent and appropriate clothing. We should avoid inappropriate friendships on social media, posting vulgar pictures, watching explicit videos, etc. We must avoid reading vulgar literature and watching inappropriate content on TV, the internet, etc. We must maintain proper conduct even with known persons, family members, and teachers. Number 5. Possessions. Parigraha. It is a common belief that the purpose of life is to have a successful career, a beautiful house, good clothes, the best food, servants, and so on. But the attachment to all the external things and the greed to have more of them takes us far from realizing our true nature. The delusion of happiness in external things and the endless desire to own them is the main reason for one's miseries. That is why the accumulation of possessions is a sin and one of the greatest sins. One might assume that only the rich are guilty of this sin because of their enormous wealth, whereas the poor are not. But that is not true. The sin of possessions has very little to do with actual possessions. The attachment towards them is the main factor causing the sinful bondage of inauspicious karma. Let us understand more about possessions. Definition. The word parigraha means to acquire material things from all directions. The desire to acquire external things is known as possessions, parigraha. It is of two types. External possessions, bahirang parigraha or dravya parigraha. These include money, food grains, land, farms, houses, animals, birds, furniture, vehicles, clothes, utensils, jewelry, and family, friends, and servants. Internal possessions, antarang parigraha or bhav parigraha. The feelings of attachment towards external possessions, the belief that they are mine or give me happiness, etc., are known as internal possessions. It includes delusion and all types of passions that comes to a total of 14 types of internal possessions, which are as follows: delusion, anger, pride, deceit, greed, and 9 types of quasi-passions: laughter, pleasure in sensory activities, displeasure in sensory activities, sorrow, fear, disgust, and 3 types of sexual cravings. The mundane soul is not content with his nature and accumulates these delusions and passions. Thus, they are possessions. Adverse effects of possessions. The process of acquisition of possessions, their management, and their loss, all 3 lead to intense misery and suffering. Example: a person works day and night, often going through tremendous stress to earn wealth. After that, he is stressed about how to manage the money, what investments will give more return, and if he loses his hard-earned money, he feels depressed and discouraged. The person who desires more possessions gets engaged in other sins like violence, falsehood, theft, etc. Thus, it is the greatest sin. Desire or attachment is the root cause of all types of possessions. A person who has conquered his desires does not have much attachment towards external possessions. So, he is not anxious to protect them, worried about losing them, or stressed about gaining more of them. He is satisfied with what he is destined to get. Let us pause and reflect here. What are our efforts directed at? What is the driving factor that is making us chase money? Why are we ready to lose our health and mental peace in the quest for more money? Can money give us all the happiness that we desire? Let us think and understand that these endless desires are sowing the seeds of sins that will take us far away from our true self. Efforts to minimize possessions. After understanding our strengths and situation, we must try to limit our possessions, which are for one time and repeated use. We must avoid accumulating things. We should buy as needed and donate when they are still helpful. Otherwise, discard them. We can try to limit the possession of land, shops, houses, businesses, etc. Like too much food, too many possessions are also the cause of misery. We should not get too emotional while setting the limit of possessions to avoid anguish later. After careful thought and introspection, one must decide on the upper limit and follow it. We must not be envious of others' possessions or try to imitate them. Every person gets according to their karma. External possessions do not determine your worth or value. You are a pure soul with infinite attributes, and your knowledge has endless potential. Valuing yourself through your possessions is an insult to your infinite potential. Summary: theft is of 2 kinds: physical and psychic. Taking someone's kept, fallen, or forgotten item without permission is physical theft, and such thoughts of stealing are psychic theft. Unchastity is of 2 kinds: physical and psychic. Having an inappropriate relationship with another person apart from your spouse is physical unchastity, and such lustful feelings are psychic unchastity. Accumulation of possessions is of 2 kinds: external and internal. Possessions like houses, clothes, cars, food grains, servants, and furniture are external possessions. Delusion and passions are internal possessions. Knowledge of one's true nature, contentment with what one has, and regular study of scriptures help one avoid these sins and follow the virtuous path.